Good afternoon. I'm joined by Simon Hanna, known by many in the industry, probably by everybody in the industry. Simon is the Managing Director of Filshill, based up in Glasgow. And he's very kindly going to give us 10, 12 minutes of his time just to tell us what's been going on in his business over the last, well, four to 5 weeks, really. Simon, what has been going on?
Listen, these have been really interesting times for the business. Naturally, there's been a huge swing of consumer, purchasing towards convenience. Lockdown has essentially driven a lot of that. So we've had to mobilize ourselves pretty quickly. First and foremost, support our customers in terms of making their staff feel safe and creating sufficient, spacing recommendations and passing legislation on to our customers to ensure that A, the shoppers are well briefed on what needs to happen in the stores, and two, that the staff in the shops feel comfortable with, going out to work and servicing the local communities in a safe environment. So that's kind of been the first thing, the reactive process of making sure that everyone was safe within the parameters has been really, really important. We've obviously had to change a lot of those processes internally within the business. We've had to communicate certain rules in order to be able to protect our own staff, both at the point of delivery and our click and collect suite, as well as how we move around the warehouse operationally. So I suppose the first week was a little bit of making sure that everyone was well versed and well protected, and we've had some phenomenal support from the likes of FWD and ACS, SGF, SWA in terms of understanding that process. Many wholesalers have got challenges that are very different to ours. Our challenges are about, the massive increase and spike of growth rather than having all of our customer base shut down overnight. So, the FWD have been great in terms of that type of communication.
I mean, Filshill have been, you've got a great reputation for having a good platform and good IT infrastructure. Do you think that's been something which has helped you during this period of pretty intense change?
Yeah, because I think the key when you experience fast short-term growth, you have to be able to control that growth. And because we're traditionally a delivered wholesaler, we capture all of our orders electronically by and large. We've got a click and collect service that we have here, and the element of control has really helped. So we've been able to restrict maximum quantities of products, and the natural instinct where we saw shoppers panic buying would similarly reflect back into retail. So we've got a good commitment with our core customers to continue to supply them as best we can and make sure that we're feeding the right quantities of stock that match the capacity in our vehicles and match the supply challenges that some of our suppliers have. And the IT system has really helped with that. We've obviously had to make some difficult decisions around some of that, but setting up our click and collect suite has been a heaven send, because where we physically can't make certain deliveries, we can get orders made up and customers can come and collect as well. And we've seen huge growth in that element of the business and have increased product categories reactively. So, where Warburtons have potentially had to rein back a little bit of direct to store delivery, we've brought bulk Warburtons in here so customers can service direct. Graham's Dairies have given us one of their chilled vehicles that's parked outside permanently for milk and saturates and dairy, and we've got Morton's Rolls doing something similar. So yeah, it's just reacting and using the IT systems in a way that allows us to support the growth, but have that growth controlled. There's no point in selling everything we've got in 5 minutes and then having nothing to sell for 3 weeks. So,
and presumably this strategy has helped your customers see that it's the transparency of what stock you have and have available, and so therefore they're coming to you because they can be assured that you have what they're looking for, and that gives them kind of reassurance as well as saves them time.
And listen, Filshill have always been very visible and honest in our communications. If we can do something, we will, and if we can't, we can't, and we communicate on that basis. So the communication has been phenomenal. And in relation to our staff, there's no question that having a very strong culture and set of core values in the business, every single employee and colleague has just really stepped up to the game. Everyone's doing stuff that they don't normally do. We've got sales guys following vehicles to help them unload at delivery points. We've got directors picking orders. We've got directors, filling shelves. We've got IT guys helping in the click and collect. We've really, stepped up the game in terms of that, and that's really helped our customers, and it's been very visible to our customers. They've had nothing but praise for how we've responded, and I guess it makes us proud that we can respond in a crisis well, and we know that we can rely on our colleagues as best we possibly can. They're a great bunch.
To have that customer sentiment, but also to have your own colleagues working essentially to deliver anything there and everything they can for your customers, that must give you some form of confidence.
And listen, we had a dry run of this a couple of years ago with the beast from the east, when we had ridiculous amounts of snow in a very short period of time, and our recovery time around that was all geared around the performance and the willingness to step up from our colleagues. So listen, we've always had that confidence. We've got a great culture here, and the team make a real difference in terms of that when there is a problem, and that's widely recognised by our customers for sure. It does give us a point of difference. If we sell the same products as everyone else in the market, we've got to have a point of difference, and there's no question that our colleague commitment is one of those point of differences for us.
And that presumably could be one of the reasons why some wholesalers might be performing a little bit better than others. As you say, if you're selling by and large the same products, then it's the service which becomes the sizzle, so to speak. Do you, unless you see any other reasons why you might see that some wholesale businesses to retail customers might be performing better, or some not performing as well as others? Can you, from your position, can you see why that might exist?
Listen, I think every retailer is loyal to their wholesaler for a different reason. We know that we've got good loyalty from our customers because of that increased service that we have. We've got good IT systems that allow us to control our growth sustainably, rather than having massive growth in the first week and then not knowing how to deal with it. So I guess some wholesalers who maybe don't have similar systems may have struggled with the control element of some of that growth. I think, listen, it could be geographical, it could be around the demographic of their customer base. There's no doubt that hygiene factors and shoppers' damaged trust in terms of hygiene is something that we have to be very, very conscious of. And, perhaps a certain customer base with a very clinical, clean retail environment will benefit greater from a different customer base, that maybe doesn't. And, because we have our key store symbol group, those types of behaviors are very, very important in terms of the brand, and have been for a long time. So I think ensuring that attention to hygiene will build shopper loyalty long term, and these types of customer demographics fit well in a challenge like this for us.
And because this has gone on for 4 to 5 weeks already, and with no end in sight, certainly not for the next 3 or 4 weeks, but I suspect there'll be some form of restrictions going on, maybe quite a bit beyond that. Presumably, you're again hopeful and confident that the changes in consumer and shopper behaviour, where they've been shopping more little and often and local and using convenience stores, then your customers, and who have done a great job, your retailers, they should be confident that actually consumer sentiment will retain, and buying and shopping patterns will, the customers they've retained, they should, or acquired, they should retain now, and can carry on doing a great job.
Yeah, listen, in theory, and what you've got to do is when you're seeing new people in the store is give them a shopping experience that makes them feel as though they want to come back. In terms of ongoing promotional activity, these are things in our key store that we haven't pulled back on, because we know that whilst there's a challenge here, that we shouldn't have to stop delivering on value proposition. And that's interesting in itself, because we see other groups have done something different. I know that Unitas have pushed hard to ensure that the promotional campaigns continue to run, and I know every member I've spoken to has is committed to doing that for exactly the same reasons as us. So, I think, when you've got new shoppers, they're shopping in a place that maybe they haven't before, and the key is to build that relationship and shopper experience so that it becomes a long-term relationship. And I guess it's the same for any new customers that we've picked up with during this process, that those conversations have been about long-term relationships and not reactive relationships. And I think that's key to deep relationships and good business going forward.
Okay, my final question, thank you for that. My final question is, what kind of role do you think data could play in terms of supporting your business? Presumably over the last couple of weeks, it might have been kind of all hands to the pump, but going forward, having quality data and information and knowledge, what role do you see that playing within your business and maybe wider sector over the next 12 months?
Listen, data has been a core component of our business. Data allows us to make decisions on things based on fact rather than feeling. And that's been really important for us for a long time. We have the Forecast business intelligence system that allows us to track a whole load of different things through the business on an hourly or daily basis. We're able to utilize the Sanderson system to identify how many work hours we've got in the building versus man hours and adjust resource into that. Data analysis and technology is never going to stop. It's something that we will invest in, ongoing, because it's so important to us. But I think if we think about where we've been caught short, some of our slowest moving lines that have been in the business historically are now our fastest sellers. And how on earth are our suppliers supposed to get a realistic forecast on the demand of these things? So, for me, we need to think about that. We need to learn from what we've experienced in the last few weeks and what we will experience in the coming weeks. Where does machine learning, artificial intelligence come into this type of scenario so that we can run, contingency scenarios, so that these are conversations that we are actually having with our suppliers, that there is a contingency plan in place. The independent wholesale sector have been good because they're fast on their feet. We're able to change product SKUs. We're allowed to switch packs really, really quickly. And, the ability to try and identify patterns, reactive patterns like this, I think will be very, very important going forward. And of course, how do we use AI and machine learning to grow our business, to optimize our sales, to optimize our margin, our customers' margin? That I think is something that we all need to have a think about, because it's definitely the future.
Fantastic. A nice way to finish, Simon, as always. Thank you ever so much for your time, and make sure your team and your colleagues and your customers stay safe.